So, folks, we have to talk about the fact that Donald Trump is waging multiple forever wars, and you might only be aware of one of them at the moment. Of course, he's been bombing different countries across the world, and that's received a limited amount of press attention. Donald Trump has also been continuing to warmonger against multiple other countries, not just Iran. Here is just something that caught my attention, right? Greenlanders love and embrace the United States, Jeff Landry says after visit. The war in Iran is proof of the vital role Greenland could play in aiding the West, Landry said Friday, due to its ample oil deposits. Literally, the Trump administration is still trying to pursue a way to seize control over Greenland. It's still happening. They're still trying to do it. Trump is making offhanded comments about, taking control over Greenland. It's very weird, right? Contrary to what you read in the paper, they do appreciate and want more US involvement in Greenland. No, they don't. They literally held marches and rallies across all of Greenland to proclaim how deeply they do not want to be part of the United States. This is from 1 week ago. No means no. Greenlanders protest against Trump outside new U.S. consulate. Hundreds of Greenlanders gathered outside a new... Hundreds! Do you have any idea? That's a significant portion of the Greenland population. Hundreds of them gathered outside of a new American consulate in the capital of Nuuk on Friday to protest against Donald Trump's ambition for greater influence over the island. The protest capped a week in which the U.S. President's special envoy to Greenland, Jeff Landry, made his first trip to the territory. Our government already told Donald Trump and his administration that Greenland is not for sale, said Akaluk Fontaine. I really apologize for the mangling of that. I apologize to Fontaine for that bungling, who organized the protest. Our message is for the American people and the rest of the world, Fontaine, 37, told the BBC, that in a democratic world, no means no. Another protester, 25 years old, Parnuna Olsen, questioned why the U.S. needed a consulate in Greenland at all. A close ally of Trump and governor of Louisiana, Landry stirred controversy, which, by the way, just side note to all of this, Landry is the governor of Louisiana, and legally he's not allowed to be the special envoy to Greenland, but this is just another example of how Donald Trump's administration continuously breaks the law. Just there's no one's enforcing any of the actual penalties of breaking the law, right? Why is he there? Well, that's the thing, right? That's why Greenlanders are massing outside of the US consulate built in Greenland. It's because they are just not having it. They're like, you don't need a consulate here because you're not going, we're not an independent nation yet. First of all, and second of all, you already have a military base here. We don't need this bullshit. Please go away. Moving from a wooden cabin to a much larger high-rise, the new 3,000 square foot consulate takes up a prominent location in the middle of downtown Nuuk. Nicknamed Trump Towers by locals, it marks a major and for some residents an unwelcome upgrade at a sensitive time for the U.S.-Greenlandic relations. Worth noting, by the way, I believe soldiers from the EU are still stationed in Greenland and still might still have the runways into the country or territory rather rigged with explosives in case the US does decide to try and invade Greenland. It is still a very volatile situation here, and I don't know. It's interesting to say the least. And this is all, by the way, happening on the heels of other protests across Greenland that took place late last year. So all of that is still kind of percolating underneath the surface. But let's check in with what's going on in Iran, right? Because Iran Still happening. Rigged the runways with explosives? Yep. Yeah, here we go. This is from the Military Times. Denmark planned to blow up Greenland runways if Trump moved to seize the island. This is from March, actually. Denmark dispatched soldiers and explosives to Greenland in January as part of a contingency plan to obliterate key runways if the United States attempted an invasion. The strategy focused on landing strips in Nuuk and Kongerlussuaq was designed to prevent U.S. military aircraft from landing troops and equipment. And Danish blood banks even flew in supplies to treat potential casualties. So, yes, actually. Do you think Europe will abandon NATO and form a new defense arrangement without the US? I mean, I don't see a reason for Europe to abandon NATO unless, like, the United States just blows it up completely. But Europe has every incentive to build an additional organization between, various European powers, right? Like, there's all the incentive in the world to just have NATO as, like, a potential option in case of, like, a Russian invasion, for example, but to not rely on that wholly and completely, Now, the other day, on May 26th, there was a plan that Donald Trump talked about to convene cabinet talks at Camp David, specifically to talk about, all of the issues that are facing America right now, supposedly with some heavy emphasis on what is happening in Iran. Donald Trump doesn't like going anywhere outside of his resort, outside of the White House. He doesn't like going places. This struck me as very bizarre, right? So the question becomes, why Camp David? And some of the theories being tossed around is like, oh, he has some kind of sickness that is progressing and he wants to hide it, of course. But there's also the possibility that they are intending to talk about something that is secret, for lack of a better word, that they don't want to talk about it in a more trafficked area. And, I gotta be honest, that made me worry quite a bit. And luckily, Donald Trump then bizarrely put this out on Truth Social the very next day. Based on the possible bad weather conditions tomorrow, we will be having our cabinet meeting in the White House and we'll be postponing the cabinet trip to Camp David. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. And that was the press conference that you all might have seen where he was particularly low energy and everyone around him was sycophantically, like they were comparing him to Washington and Lincoln. And there's a lot going on here that seems to be aligning. There's also some rumors that JD Vance is going to drop his bid in 2028 because he sees the writing on the wall here. So it's all very interesting, of course. And all of this then culminates in Donald Trump threatening Oman during this press conference. Oman will behave just like everybody else or we'll have to blow them up, he told reporters at the White House. Now, this at this very low energy press conference and meeting, right? He threatens to go to war with Oman because there were reports that Oman was working with Iran to create a kind of tolling system for the Strait of Hormuz. And so in response to that report, Donald Trump is then, well, we'll just bomb Oman then. It's like, well, how will that help anything? Like, there's already a tolling system being imposed on the Strait of Hormuz by Iran. How will bombing Oman help? This is all very weird, but it's all unhinged. It's all as if this guy is, I don't know, in some kind of early stage or maybe even mid stage of dementia. It's weird. And I wanted to also share this with you guys because I genuinely, it continues to get worse day after day after day. And not enough people, I think, are talking about the fact that Donald Trump's brain is gone. It's gone. It's gone. He's going nuts in a deeply uncharming way. I talked about this earlier today on Blue Sky, but I'll throw it up here. This is an actual post from Donald Trump. Aced cognitive tests. The tests he's taking are for dementia. Other presidents didn't need to take them because they weren't suspected of having their minds going. And it also, again, does make you wonder, exactly, Next Demise, how many of these has he failed that he feels the need to brag about them? Now, obviously, this is funny in a way, darkly comedic, but when we're talking about in the context of forever wars, when we're talking about in the context of, hey, this guy has the ability to unilaterally bomb countries and has in fact just used that power to drag us into a war with Iran, that should be terrifying. This man is not stable. This man is not capable of making his own decisions and managing his own affairs. And we know, by the way, that these are dementia tests because he talks about them and talks about doing the thing that they have you do during dementia tests. All of this is then kind of culminates here in this reporting yesterday, where Donald Trump is accusing Iran of stalling peace deal to outwait him until US midterms, which is deeply funny because obviously obviously, like, time is on the side of Iran. Trump has for weeks and weeks been saying time is on the United States side. We just have to wait them out with our brilliant blockade, right? But the reality is Iran doesn't have to do anything other than just hold its ground. Like, they don't even really have to wait until midterms. Like, the economic damage is mounting by the day. It's global in scale. Like, the globe is feeling this. There is a jet fuel crisis right now across Europe in particular, and it's getting worse because of this. And so, like, all of this being said, now he's finally admitting the truth, which is that Iran can outwait him. Iran can wait until the midterms. Iran can, in fact, leverage its power and have agency in this arrangement and doesn't have to just sit back and, kowtow to your demands. And so it's just very, very interesting. Here's what he actually said, by the way. They thought they were going to outwait me, Well, outwait him. He's got the midterms. He insisted the approach, supposedly aimed at ratcheting up pressure on the US and global economies by keeping the strategically vital Strait of Hormuz closed, would fail, and claimed that Iran wants very much to make a deal. I don't care about the midterms. Look what happened last night, Trump said, an apparent reference to the triumph of Ken Paxton, whom he had endorsed over the sitting Republican Senator John Cornyn in the Texas Republican Senate primary, which that has literally nothing to do with anything. It's just him trying to beat his chest to make himself feel better. Has nothing to do with the geopolitical crisis he alone has created with Iran. Like, he can't afford to wait, really. Largely because of this. Gas prices. People are feeling the gas prices. Any Republican who's telling you they're not feeling the gas prices, they are not representative of the wide swath of Republicans who are working class. All right? Everyone is feeling this. Everyone is feeling this both at the pump. They're also feeling it in their food. They're feeling it when it comes to literally any kind of product that is shipped using diesel. The economic numbers are becoming so dire that in a lot of different metrics, what's happening right now is mirroring what happened during the pandemic. While record high prices at the pump are a persistent concern, the bond market's spike over the last several days also has aides and allies fretting, worried that borrowing costs will pummel a nation that runs on credit and makes it harder for the Federal Reserve to cut rates. Now, this is something we've talked about in the past, right? Which is that with everything that is going on internationally, different countries are responding to this oil crisis by dumping US bonds, which is effectively US debt. Different corporations or governments buy US debt because those bonds then pay like a very, very small, but largely seen internationally as stable return over the course of like 5 years, 10 years, you know? And so China's like private investment market dropped US bonds like crazy. Japan dropped a shit ton of US bonds. It's really, really bad when it comes to what the US can do, right? So this is something kind of like a twin pincer going on right now. Consumers and voters are feeling all of these prices crunch them and their personal finances, but so is the investment class, because the investment class in America was really banking on the Federal Reserve cutting rates so that they could have cheaper money, cheaper loans to take out, right? But if these bonds get dumped, then it limits what the Federal Reserve can do without, catastrophic economic damage. And that this double pincer is what is causing any kind of movement we are now seeing to happen, right? This report comes from like about a week ago, right? And that then leads us to today, which I don't want to be Charlie Brown here, victim to the football, right? But New York Times is reporting U.S. officials say they're closing in on an arrangement to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Now, apparently, this negotiated agreement it's not an end to the conflict, but what it is a 60-day extension of the truce. Kind of another punting of the ball to delay what seems to be just an never-ending process. And unfortunately, it takes one last signature to finalize it, and it's Donald Trump's. Trump has yet to sign it, as far as I know. Maybe during this stream he will sign it, but right now he hasn't signed it. It has a framework for temporary reopening of the Strait of Hormuz, apparently, according to Axios and several other organizations that have looked at the arrangement. It's so far what it appears to be is a memorandum of understanding. Why would he not sign? Because anything he signs is going to look like a loss for him, right? That's why he's not signing. He knows that this entire thing has been a debacle, and anything other than a full and complete surrender by Iran is going to make him look really bad, which is why he keeps delaying and like sabotaging these negotiations. It's him running from his own weakness, right? Here is Al Jazeera talking about this 60-day truce extension.
We've just confirmed that the White House is in fact confirming a report in Axios from a little bit earlier, and they didn't say that the details in the Axios report are confirmed, but they did say that the reporting is confirmed that there is a memorandum of understanding, that the president still hasn't signed it. What Axios says is in the deal, and again, we have not been able to independently confirm this, that it's a 60-day ceasefire, that the strait will reopen, and Iran promises to clear all mines within 30 days. Iran will pledge not to build a nuclear weapon. The U.S. will discuss sanctions relief and the unfreezing of Iranian assets, and the U.S. will also help distribute goods and humanitarian aid, or get humanitarian aid into Iran. There will be a parallel lifting of the U.S. naval blockade. As long as the strait's reopening, the blockade will cease to be, and then they will negotiate how to get rid of the enriched uranium. I want to stress that this is what we're hearing now, but this is also something we've heard before. Just a few days ago, White House and the president himself on social media signaling that they basically had a memorandum of understanding. They just had a few more details to work out.
I wonder how bad it'll have to get before Europe starts retaliating against the U.S., if they ever do.
Oh, I mean, like, Europe already is retaliating against the US. It's just they're not retaliating directly, right? Some European nations have also dumped, US bonds, for example. That is a form of soft retaliation, right? But as we go forward, my guess is that a lot of European nations are going to be siloing the United States and US support in order to make sure that they do not become too reliant on the United States to function, because they have seen now that that is an unreliable path to take. Thank you for the 5 tier 1 subs.
Only 24 hours later to say, no, we don't have a deal. And the president just 24 hours ago in a cabinet meeting saying that he's in no rush, that what Iran had offered was a good deal, but he was going to hold off for a great deal.
Yeah, so that's kind of what's going on. Like, Trump is trying to play coy and saying like, well, it's pretty good, but I want something great. I want a great deal. It's pretty odd, though. It's worth noting that I do not know whether or not to put a lot of stock in this, because a lot of the reporting on this seems to be coming from the United States and US sources. I want to know what's going on Iran's end of things, because as we talk about all of this, right, like, the United States conducted defensive operations in Iran just like over the last couple of days, bombing sites in Iran. There was an aircraft that Tehran downed like earlier yesterday. There has been fighting going on over and in Iran right now. You know, we'll see like if that's enough to derail anything, but I just don't know to what extent any of us can rely on the information coming out of the White House when it's been clear over and over and over again that they're just liars. You know, we'll see. Will this dementia-addled elderly man who is only concerned with how he comes across in the media, will he sign something that is going to make him look extraordinarily bad? Guess we'll find out, won't we? Now, meanwhile, let's turn to one of our best prognosticators to learn, a little bit about how we got here, of course. We need some high-level ideas to spice this all up. Let's take a quick look with our correspondent on the ground in Iran, Dave Rubin.
So allow me to make a prediction here in my prediction stuff. I'm not Polymarket, I'm not Kalshi, but I'm pretty good at predictions. And my prediction here is that everything that the media is now going to say about Iran's going to close the Strait of Hormuz and energy prices are going to go crazy and all these, none of this is going to come to pass. Gas prices are coming down and will continue to come down. If the United States wants to keep the Strait of Hormuz open, which it does, and Donald Trump said we'll escort ships through if we have to, it's going to stay open. This is the leader of the Iranian opposition. He has been in.
By the way, God bless Dave Rubin Clips for wading through Dave Rubin's content. It is boring as hell. I do not understand how he gets people to watch this slop. But you know what? God bless Dave Rubin Clips for wading through it and finding a series of diamonds to piece together from the rough.
In exile. His name is Reza Pahlavi. We have shown you videos of him before. He's the eldest son of the former Shah of Iran, and he likely is the next leader of Iran. This is the guy that, by all accounts, when this war ends, will go in and he will be the leader. And again, it will be different. Just remember.
Don't worry, guys. The U.S. is definitely going to reinstate the Shah. It'll be great. He'll lead them to a new golden age, I promise.
It sounds like the Kurds are starting to enter the country with arms to help the people take out the last vestiges of the IRGC. There's a lot of good things happening.
The Kurds, they're invading Iran now. They're gonna destroy the last vestiges, the last scraps of the IRGC. It's so stupid. It's so funny how wrong Dave Rubin has consistently been over the years. You could practically, tune a clock to him. It's crazy.
This is Iranians, and you can hear they are chanting Bibi June, Bibi Netanyahu. In Iran, they are chanting praise for Benjamin Netanyahu. And when you take out Khomeini and you take out his number 2 and his number 3 and his number 4 and his number 37 and his number 42, then suddenly the next guy's gone.
Wasn't this an AI video? Yeah, that's why Dave Rubin Clips superimposed a Haaretz article about how that was a deep fake of Iranians.
And when you take out Khomeini and you take out his number 2 and his number 3 and his number 4 and his number 37 and his number 42, then suddenly the next guy's going, it's a little hot in here. Ha, ha, ha. And then people start behaving a little.
I love that Dave Rubin is just like, guys, it's actually brilliant to just kill everyone down the chain of command. It's actually a brilliant idea. Just kill everyone in charge of the country. It's good. That's good. It's totally good. It'll be stable. Don't worry, guys. It's brilliant. Nobody's ever tried this before.
A bit differently. They've plotted this war, this extraordinary war that will be studied for decades, right? For decades, they will study how this incredible...
Using an AI video as a reference is a bit of a bad idea for reputability. Well, that's kind of the thing. Dave Rubin does not give a shit about his reputation because he's just a chronic liar. Like Dave Rubin, Jillian Michaels, all these people, they rely on AI to make all of their arguments for them. And, you know, it really winds up leading them to say some really dipshitted things.
War took place. That we are hitting critical infrastructure.
Thoughts on Dave Rubin's outfit? It's very boring. Like, he's the most boringly dressed man I've ever seen. Like, it's genuinely crazy. He's supposed to be rich. Why are you dressing like every single bland villain CEO you've seen? He looks like he could be like, I don't know, like the senior executive vice chair over at Kohl's. Like, he looks boring as fuck.
We are damaging the regime, so hopefully the people will be able to take over their countries. Now, the question is, if you're going to hit power plants and you're going to hit civilian infrastructure and things of that nature, how do you make sure it's not going to harm the people? But
oh, okay, guys. Here's our plan. We'll just poison the civilian water supply. Okay. Now, the trick here is how do you poison the civilian water supply without killing a massive number of civilians? How do you do it in a nice way? You know, that's the real thing we need to be talking about here. Like, how do you harm civilians directly in a polite way? Oh shit.
Temu Milo Yiannopoulos.
Oh shit.
Of course.
You're so right. And that's already embarrassing because Milo Yiannopoulos is already like a dirt tier like content creator. For the right, it's true. Milo Yiannopoulos wears better outfits than Dave Rubin, though. You know, like that is a fact.
Just the regime. And when we have a Department of War that is not looking for war, but will...
I hate this suit, just as an FYI, because it looks like it has like cat hair all over it. And I know it doesn't. It's just the fabric and the pattern. But like, get a better suit.
Perform war, then we are going to do it at the maximum level of competency. I think the way you can look at this, I haven't heard anyone else say this, but this seems to me to be the war to end all wars.
Cool. Thanks, Dave, for your insightful commentary. Anyway, while all this is going on, of course, Donald Trump is obviously doing a massive grift behind the scenes. To the extent that, again, I do have to say this every single day we do this show, everyone involved with this should be prosecuted and should sit in prison for the rest of their lives. And, you know, obviously the war included, like we should not be at war with Iran right now. The president shouldn't be able to unilaterally put us into a war with Iran. But also for reasons like this. This is from Semaphore from 2 days ago. The State Department sends $1.25 billion from other programs to the Board of Peace. Now, this is super illegal for several different reasons. Number one, because the State Department does not have the authority to just send $1.25 billion without the approval of Congress. And number two, because what we're talking about is, I gotta be honest, a Ponzi scheme completely and utterly controlled by the Trump family. Like, Donald Trump is in charge of the Board of Peace. It's his own personal slush fund. And also worth noting that literally the day after this move was reported on by Semaphore, this report came out, which is that apparently Trump's Board of Peace fund sits empty 4 months after launch. Yeah, it's very clear to me that the Trump administration is trying to just funnel as much money as possible into Trump slush funds that are hidden away and under Donald Trump's control, and that are going to continue to be under his control even after he leaves office. Like, that's clearly what this Board of Peace situation is. And when the State Department is transferring $1.25 billion of US taxpayer money into a private account unaffiliated with the Board of Peace under the idea that it's going to the Board of Peace, like, people need to go to prison for that. There needs to be accountability restored to governance in this country. After Trump, how do we get the money back? We prosecute the fuck out of all of these losers. Like, genuinely. It needs to be to the fullest extent of the law. Yeah, we need to replace the Board of Peace with the Board of Bees. Run by and for the bees. Yeah, accountable governance, exactly. What even is it? But it's something that I think is desperately needed. You know, again, I told that anecdote the other day of talking with my hairdresser, and like, people have genuinely stopped believing that like people in positions of political power are going to be held accountable. And that then creates a permission structure for people to act in corrupt ways when they achieve levels of power, whether they are an oligarch or a politician. It allows for the public to simply say, well, that's just the expected behavior. We need to undo that expectation by actually coming down on and punishing those in power who are using it to hurt us and steal from us. So, if you want to do that, get organized. Join your local DSA. Join your local Dems. This needs to be a bottom-up solution, because no one is coming to save us from the top. No billionaire is going to just be like, well, let's form a billionaire coalition against all these other billionaires, and we'll have a big fight. Like, that's not happening. At most, we're getting like maybe 1 or 2 class traders who are going to do something like that. At most. But you cannot rely on someone with an immense amount of power just suddenly deciding to be a swell guy. Instead, we need to build a system from the bottom up that will actually instill some accountability. Because if we don't get that, kind of like what Jamel Bowie was talking about the other day, if we don't have accountability, at some point, the system breaks down and people begin looking for other solutions. And I would argue we're already in kind of the early stages of that breakdown. It's why you have people right now who are standing for Luigi Mangione. No working class person in this country saw the story about Luigi Mangione and was like, I just don't get it. Every working class person saw that story and were just like, I get it. I've had to call the insurance company to try and make the case that my wife deserves to have chemo and live. And that's the kind of thing that is going to accelerate if there is not accountability. That's kind of where we're at right now. Accountability is just the first step. We need so many other reforms, but accountability needs to be one of the main ones. So, all that being said, join your local Dems. Make them more progressive. Make them more pro-working class. If you can, get them to adopt socialist policies. Point at places like New York City and Zoran Mamdani and suggest policies similar to those. We have a template now. He's blazing a trail for us. You can follow in his footsteps. Also join your DSA, because DSA should be doing the work of organizing working people in our communities, starting unions, building up that working class power. We should be trying to instill that everywhere we can. All right. So join your Dems, join your DSA. And if you need help join our Discord, reach out to Gamergy for help with DSA, reach out to Dragonfly for help with your local Dems. And I will be talking more on Monday. I'm not sure when this video will come out, but I'll be talking more on Monday about some of the more direct things you can do to help different up-and-coming elected officials looking to get elected. We're going to be trying to provide you guys with an array of options, depending on where you're at with your level of political activity, your level of time, your level of energy. And hopefully that will help you guys to get involved, because it's always the hardest part to take that first step. And we want to make it as easy as possible. So all that being said, hit the like button on this video if you got anything out of it. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Do you like the Forever Wars? Oh, that's right. I forgot about one last Forever War. In fact, I have a sound effect for this. That's right. Yeah, the Pentagon has apparently put all the pieces in place it needs to invade Cuba. That's cool. Apparently, all the troops, weapons, and naval assets needed as judged by the Pentagon have been put in place in order to invade Cuba. And this does seem to be different from Bay of Pigs, in particular, because they're not relying on a bunch of like Cuban expats. They're seemingly intending, if they do go forward with this, to use US soldiers on Cuban soil. Yeah, according to Politico, the president has floated an invasion of the island after economic and political pressure failed to topple the communist government, but the Navy's built-up presence in the region, the largest in the world outside the Middle East, would allow the US to act immediately. Yeah. These strategically placed assets set the table for military action, from a capture of Havana's leadership, much like the seizure of former Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, to a series of precision strikes. They open up the possibility that the U.S. throws itself into the third international conflict of the Trump administration. And Marco Rubio said Wednesday at the cabinet meeting that Cuba's in a whole lot of trouble. So I do want to remind you all that Marco Rubio is very, very, very rabid to have the United States invade and topple the Cuban government. I actually think that there's a story floating around that he made a promise to his father on his dad's deathbed that he would try and free Cuba from the Castros. That's a whole thing. It's truly disgusting. And no one seemingly is going to come to Cuba's defense this time. So it's worth noting that we have an aircraft carrier stationed in the area since May, beginning of May. And there's a reason the Cuban government has to keep doing broadcasts about how, it will exact the price if US soldiers invade. So I have to imagine, yet again, Donald Trump is chasing that high from Venezuela, and they are looking to send US troops in a targeted fashion to try and pull out, Raul Castro, for example, or to decapitate the Cuban government. That being said, again, this is one of those situations where Cuba has been preparing for like the last 60 years for something like this in particular. So it's not immediately clear to me that this would have the same level of success, especially given that other countries know what happened to Venezuela. I don't know. I'm pretty sick of the Forever Wars, folks. I'd really like off this ride. Politico also describes, along with the USS Nimitz, there are several guided missile destroyers and cruisers that can launch precision missiles. Array of advanced American drones and surveillance aircraft have been circling Cuba for months. We've talked about that in the past. And also there are amphibious ships and escorts that are capable of carrying 2,500 Marines apiece off the coast of Virginia, supposedly preparing for a new deployment somewhere. Wonder where? The Trump administration is feeling the pressure right now to find some kind of win And I'm deeply worried that they're going to attempt something pretty drastic with Cuba in an effort to get Donald Trump the W he feels like he needs to counterbalance whatever L he's about to take in Iran. And to be clear, he is taking an L every single moment this Iran crisis continues. So anyway, like, comment, and subscribe. And also, check out ImogeneOlivia.com, gender euphoric lingerie designed from the ground up for trans femmes. Also tested with cis men, cis women, non-binary folks. It is comfortable, sexy, non-tucking lingerie. Go check it out, ImogeneOlivia.com. Link down in the description. And I just want out of these forever wars. I want us to not do any of this shit. So, all that being said, do the things. Let's keep on going.
Riverboat Jack is coming to town. All the viewers gather around. Twitch and YouTube is switching streams. All that content is bursting the seams. Politics, daily, plenty more. Your sense of fashion, you'll adore. So grab your stuff and hop aboard. We're going straight to Jack's Discord. Riverboat Jack.